Hello everyone, if you have your own paranormal experiences you'd like to share, please send them to our channel. Remember, we're not looking for fiction, but real accounts of unexplained events. Stay safe out there, and remember, not all ghosts are scary. Some just need help finding their way home. The autumn rain hammered against the Gothic windows of the Lemp Mansion as historian Sarah Martinez stepped through the heavy oak door. She had come to St. Louis in October 2019 to research the infamous Brewing family for her dissertation, but nothing in her academic preparation had prepared her for the suffocating dread that immediately wrapped around her like a shroud. The mansion stood at 3322 DeMenil Place, a testament to both opulence and tragedy. Built in the 1860s by William J. Lemp Sr., the founder of the Western Brewery Company, it had once been a symbol of German-American prosperity. Now, after 4 suicides and decades of abandonment, it was something else entirely. "Welcome to the Lemp Mansion," said Patricia Pointer, the current owner who had converted part of the building into a restaurant and inn. "You'll be staying in the William Jr. suite tonight. That's where he... Well, you know." Sarah did know. William Lemp Jr. had shot himself in that very room on December 29, 1922, just 2 years after his father had taken his own life in the mansion's study. The family's tragedies had become the stuff of legend, but Sarah was determined to separate fact from folklore. As Patricia led her up the grand staircase, past oil paintings of stern-faced Lemps whose eyes seemed to track their movement, Sarah noticed the temperature drop perceptibly. Her breath began to mist in the hallway. "The heating system's a bit unreliable," Patricia explained, though her voice carried an uncertainty that suggested she didn't quite believe her own words. "Sometimes the cold spots just appear." The William Jr. suite was elegant but oppressive. Heavy Victorian furniture crowded the space, and a massive 4-poster bed dominated the room where the troubled heir had ended his life nearly a century ago. Sarah set down her research materials and tried to shake off the feeling that she was being watched. As darkness fell, she spread out her documents on the ornate writing desk. The Lemp family's story read like a Gothic novel made real. William Sr. had built a brewing empire, constructing not just the mansion but an entire network of caves beneath it where beer was stored and aged. The family had prospered until Prohibition arrived like a plague, destroying their livelihood. The suicides had started with William Sr. in 1904, triggered by the death of his best friend and business partner, Frederick Pabst. Then his son William Jr. in 1922, overwhelmed by business failures and personal demons. Elsa Lemp Wright, William Sr.'s daughter, had followed in 1920. Finally, Charles Lemp, the last family member to live in the mansion, had taken his life in 1949. But it was what happened between the documented tragedies that interested Sarah most. Reports of servants fleeing in terror. Unexplained sounds echoing through the caves. Sightings of figures in period dress walking the halls long after the family was gone. Around midnight, as Sarah transcribed a particularly disturbing account from a 1930s caretaker, she heard it, the distinct sound of footsteps in the hallway outside her door. Measured, deliberate steps that seemed to pace back and forth. She froze, pen hovering over paper. The restaurant had closed hours ago, and Patricia had assured her she would be alone on this floor. The footsteps continued for several minutes before fading away entirely. Sarah tried to rationalize it. Old buildings settle? Pipes expand and contract. But when she finally worked up the courage to check the hallway, she found it empty and oddly warm, as if someone had just been standing there. Returning to her research, she discovered a newspaper clipping from 1949 that made her blood run cold. Charles Lemp, the last of the family line, had been found dead in his room with a .38 caliber revolver beside him. But what chilled her wasn't the suicide itself, it was the detail that he had been found wearing a white nightgown, pacing his room for hours before taking his life. The footsteps she had heard matched the rhythm described by neighbors who had witnessed Charles's final night. At 2 a.m., Sarah was deep in studying the mansion's architectural plans when she heard a new sound, piano music drifting up from the restaurant below. It was a melancholy waltz, played with the skill of someone classically trained. She knew from her research that Elsa Lemp had been an accomplished pianist before her death. The music played for exactly 13 minutes. Sarah timed it before cutting off abruptly mid-note. The silence that followed was somehow more terrifying than any sound. Unable to concentrate, Sarah decided to explore the mansion's public areas. Armed with only her phone's flashlight, she descended the main staircase. The restaurant dining room stretched before her, tables and chairs casting long shadows in the pale light. The piano sat silent in the corner, its bench slightly pulled out as if someone had just finished playing. She approached the instrument carefully, her light revealing something that made her gasp. The piano keys were still warm to the touch. As she backed away from the piano, Sarah noticed a door she hadn't seen during the day tour. It was partially hidden behind a heavy curtain, and according to her architectural plans, it led to the basement cave system. The door stood slightly ajar. Every instinct told her not to investigate, but academic curiosity overrode common sense. The basement stairs were narrow and steep, carved directly into the limestone bedrock. Her phone's light barely penetrated the darkness below. The caves were vast, stretching far beyond what her weak beam could illuminate. The air was thick and musty, filled with the ghosts of hops and barley from decades past. But there was something else in that air, the unmistakable scent of cigar smoke, though no one had smoked in these caves for generations. As Sarah ventured deeper into the tunnel system, following what appeared to be the main passage, she began to hear voices. Faint at first, like whispers carried on the wind, but gradually becoming clearer. Men's voices, speaking in German accented English about business matters, profit margins, the challenges of prohibition. The voices seemed to be coming from a chamber ahead. Sarah's rational mind insisted it was impossible, but her feet kept moving forward. The chamber opened up into a larger room where wooden barrels had once been stored. Now it was empty except for a few rotting wooden tables and chairs. But the voices were clearer here, as if a business meeting was taking place in the darkness just beyond her vision. She could make out fragments. The brewery won't survive. Too much debt. No way out. Then, cutting through the phantom discussion, came the sound of a gunshot. The voices stopped immediately. The silence was absolute, broken only by Sarah's ragged breathing and the hammering of her heart. She turned and ran, not caring about dignity or academic composure, her phone's light bouncing wildly as she fled through the tunnels. She burst through the basement door and into the restaurant, gasping and shaking. As she tried to compose herself, she noticed something that made her freeze: wet footprints on the floor leading from the basement door to the stairs. Footprints that matched her own shoe size exactly, but she had never walked that path. Back in her room, Sarah tried to process what she had experienced. She pulled out her laptop and began typing furiously, documenting every detail while it was still fresh. As she wrote, she began to understand something crucial about the Lemp Mansion: it wasn't just haunted by the dead. It was haunted by moments, tragic, pivotal moments that had somehow become trapped in the fabric of the building itself. The footsteps weren't just the ghosts of the Lemp family. They were the echoes of their final nights, playing out again and again like a broken record. The piano music wasn't just Elsa's spirit, it was the last song she had played before despair consumed her. The voices in the caves weren't mere phantoms, they were the conversations that had led to the family's downfall, preserved in stone and mortar. As dawn approached, Sarah made a disturbing discovery in her notes. The times when she had heard the footsteps, the piano music, and the voices in the caves corresponded exactly to the documented times of the Lemp family suicides. She had witnessed not just hauntings, but historical reenactments of the family's darkest moments. When Patricia arrived to check on her guests the next morning, she found Sarah packed and ready to leave. "How was your night?" Patricia asked, though the dark circles under her eyes suggested she already knew the answer. "Educational," Sarah replied carefully. "I got everything I needed for my research." As she loaded her car, Sarah looked back at the mansion. In the morning light, it appeared almost benign, just another Victorian building in an old St. Louis neighborhood. But she knew the truth now. The Lemp Mansion didn't just house the dead, it preserved their final, terrible moments for anyone brave or foolish enough to witness them. 3 months later, Sarah's dissertation on the Lemp family won academic acclaim. But she never mentioned what she had experienced that October night. Some truths, she learned, are too dark to share. The Lemp Mansion keeps its secrets, replaying its tragedies for those who dare to listen. To this day, guests at the Lemp Mansion report similar experiences: footsteps in empty hallways, piano music in the night, voices discussing long-dead business concerns. The mansion stands as a monument to tragedy, where the past refuses to rest and the echoes of despair continue to resonate through time. The Lemp family's story ended with their deaths, but the mansion's story continues, drawing visitors who seek to understand the thin line between history and horror, between the documented past and the inexplicable present. For in the Lemp Mansion, the two have become indistinguishably, terrifyingly entwined. Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like and subscribe button, and then share it with your friends. Your support helps us grow and create even more awesome content. We appreciate you being part of the journey.